The way seniors stand still is more important than exercise. That sentence sounds strange at first. Almost wrong. For years, people have been told that movement is everything. Walk more, exercise more, stay active. And while movement does matter, there is something even more fundamental, something so basic that it often goes unnoticed, precisely because it looks like nothing is happening. Standing still. Most people think standing is passive, something you do between movements, something that doesn't count. But standing still is not empty. It is not neutral. It is a conversation between your body and gravity. And for many seniors, that conversation has slowly changed without them realizing it. You can tell a lot about someone's future just by watching how they stand when nothing else is required of them. Not when they're walking, not when they're exercising, just standing, waiting for the kettle to boil, standing in line, standing while talking to someone. Those quiet moments reveal more about strength, balance, confidence, and control than any workout ever could, because standing still is where the body shows what it truly trusts. When someone stands with ease, weight balanced, breathing calm, eyes relaxed, their body is saying, "I know where I am." When someone shifts constantly, locks their knees, grips the floor with their toes, or leans subtly on one hip, their body is saying something else. It's saying, "I'm managing." And managing is not the same as being stable. Most seniors don't notice these changes because they happen slowly. Years ago, standing felt effortless. You didn't think about your feet. You didn't think about balance. You didn't think about where your weight was. You just stood. Now, without any clear moment of loss, standing has become something you do with adjustments. Small ones, almost invisible ones. You lean on the counter while talking. You shift your weight when standing too long. You prefer to sit whenever possible, not because you're tired, but because it feels better, more secure. Again, none of this feels alarming. It feels sensible. But it's telling a story. The story is not that you're weak. The story is that your body has stopped practicing one of its most important skills. Standing still is not about muscles alone. It's about coordination, communication, trust between your feet, your legs, your hips, your spine, and your nervous system. When you stand, hundreds of tiny adjustments are happening constantly. Micro movements you never feel. That's balance. And balance is not trained by walking forward in a straight line or lifting weights while seated. Balance is trained by being still without being stiff. This is where many exercise routines miss the mark for seniors. They focus on movement, but they ignore stillness. They strengthen muscles, but neglect control. They improve endurance, but overlook awareness. And awareness is what keeps people upright when life surprises them. Think about how falls actually happen. Rarely during exercise, rarely during a planned movement. Most falls happen during ordinary moments. Turning to answer someone, reaching for something while standing, pausing, hesitating, losing balance not because of weakness, but because the body didn't know where it was in space. Standing still is where that knowing lives. Over time, many seniors develop a habit of avoiding stillness. They keep moving, shifting, leaning, or sitting, because standing quietly feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels tiring. Sometimes it feels slightly unsteady. So the body never gets the chance to relearn that it can be calm and balanced at the same time. This is why exercise alone doesn't always translate into confidence. Someone can walk every day and still feel unsure when standing in place. They can be active and still feel unstable at the sink, in the shower, or while waiting in line. Standing still is a skill, and like any skill, it fades when it's not practiced. There is also an emotional layer to this that often goes unspoken. Standing still requires trust. Trust that your body will hold you. Trust that you won't suddenly lose balance. Trust that you don't need to rush or brace or prepare for something to go wrong. When that trust weakens, the body stays alert, tense, ready to react. And a tense body is never truly stable. You can see this tension in the way people stand with their shoulders raised, jaw tight, breath shallow. They look still, but inside, everything is working too hard. That effort creates fatigue, and fatigue creates more instability. It becomes a quiet loop. What's surprising is how quickly this loop can begin to reverse once someone pays attention to standing itself. Not standing perfectly, not standing like a statue, standing with awareness. When seniors begin to notice how their feet feel on the ground, how their weight is distributed, how their breath moves while they're upright, something shifts. The body starts to settle instead of brace. Muscles that have been overworking get a chance to relax. Muscles that have been asleep get invited back into the conversation. This doesn't require exercise clothes or equipment. It happens in kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms. It happens while waiting, while listening, while doing nothing special. That's why it's more important than exercise. Exercise is something you do for a limited time. Standing is something you do every day. If standing is done with tension, fear, or imbalance, those patterns repeat hundreds of times a day. No amount of exercise can fully undo that. But if standing becomes calm, grounded, and confident, that quality carries into every movement. Walking becomes smoother. Turning becomes easier. Reaching feels safer. Even sitting down and standing up feel different. Many seniors are surprised when they realize how rarely they truly stand without leaning, shifting, or gripping something. Once they notice it, they see it everywhere. At the counter, at the sink, at the stove, and that awareness alone begins to change things. The body responds quickly when it realizes it's being observed in a kind way. Instead of forcing posture or holding positions rigidly, the goal becomes allowing the body to stack itself naturally. Feet under the body, weight shared, breath moving, eyes soft. Nothing dramatic, nothing strained. This kind of standing sends a powerful signal to the nervous system. It says, I'm safe here. And safety is what allows balance to improve. Without safety, the body defaults to protection. Protection looks like stiffness, and stiffness is the enemy of balance. This is why some people exercise faithfully and still feel unsteady. They train strength, but live the rest of their day in guarded positions. Their bodies never get the message that upright stillness is safe. Standing still retrains that message. It also retrains patience. Many seniors feel an urge to move or sit quickly when standing, a subtle restlessness. That restlessness is not boredom, it's uncertainty. The body wants to escape the moment because it doesn't fully trust it. Learning to stay calmly, even for short periods, rebuilds that trust. Over time, standing becomes less tiring, less mentally demanding, less something to get through. It becomes neutral again, easy, automatic, like it once was. And when standing becomes easy, everything else follows. This is why the way seniors stand still is more important than how much they exercise. Because standing is the foundation. It's the quiet test your body takes dozens of times a day. And it's the test most people never practice intentionally. If this idea feels new or unexpected, that's a good sign. It means you're seeing something that's been hiding in plain sight. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If you want to keep developing this kind of awareness, if you want reminders that help you protect your balance, confidence, and independence in subtle but powerful ways, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Not as a habit, but as a signal to yourself that you're paying attention to the things that matter before they become problems. Standing may look like nothing, but done well, it's everything. And the beautiful part is that it's available to you right now, in the next quiet moment, in the next pause, in the next time you find yourself simply standing there. That's where strength really begins. That's where strength really begins. Not with effort, not with sweat, not with plans or promises. It begins in those quiet seconds when nothing is happening and your body is simply upright, meeting gravity without resistance or fear. And the more you start to notice those seconds, the more you realize how much they shape everything else. Standing still reveals patterns that movement can hide. When you're walking, momentum helps you. When you're exercising, instructions guide you. But when you're standing with no task, no destination, no distraction, your body has to organize itself honestly. There's nowhere to hide. that honesty is exactly what makes standing so powerful. Many seniors are surprised when they realize that standing still feels harder than walking. Walking gives rhythm. Standing asks for presence. It asks your body to be here, now, without escape. And if standing feels uncomfortable, that discomfort is information, not a failure. Often the discomfort comes from years of small compensations. One hip that takes more weight. One foot that grips the ground harder. Knees that lock instead of floating. Shoulders that rise as if preparing for impact. None of these patterns began as mistakes. They began as solutions. Solutions to stiffness, to uncertainty, to moments when balance felt slightly off. The body is brilliant at solving problems. But when a solution becomes permanent, it creates a new problem. Standing becomes effort instead of rest. Stillness becomes tension instead of calm. What's important to understand is that the body doesn't forget how to stand well. It simply stops being reminded. And reminders don't need to be intense. They need to be consistent. Imagine standing while brushing your teeth. Most people lean on the sink without realizing it. Not because they need to, but because it feels familiar. The sink has quietly become a support. When you notice that habit and gently choose to stand without leaning, even for a few seconds, you're sending a new signal. You're telling your body, you can do this. At first, those seconds may feel long. Your legs may feel busy. Your feet may feel uncertain. Your breath may change. That's not weakness. That's awakening. Muscles and systems that have been quiet are being asked to participate again. Over time, something interesting happens. The effort decreases. Standing becomes less noisy inside. The shifting slows. The urge to sit fades. What once felt like work becomes neutral. This neutrality is what most people mistake for normal. But normal is not guaranteed. It's maintained. Another common pattern is standing with the mind elsewhere. Thinking, worrying, planning. When attention leaves the body often stiffens. Awareness softens what tension hardens. Simply noticing how your weight feels on the ground can reduce unnecessary effort. This isn't about perfect posture. Chasing posture often creates more tension. This is about allowing alignment instead of forcing it. When the body feels supported from the ground up, it doesn't need to hold itself rigidly. Feet play a huge role in this, even though most people never think about them. Feet are the body's conversation with the floor. When that conversation is muted by habit or fear, balance suffers. Standing still gives that conversation time to reestablish itself. You may notice sensations you haven't felt in years. Pressure shifts, subtle movements, tiny adjustments. These are signs of life, not instability. The body is recalibrating. This recalibration doesn't happen during intense exercise. It happens during quiet repetition, during moments that seem too simple to matter. This is why seniors who focus only on exercise sometimes feel frustrated. They do everything they're supposed to do, yet something still feels off. That missing piece is often stillness. Exercise strengthens parts. Standing integrates the whole. Integration is what keeps people upright when something unexpected happens. A sudden turn, a slip, a distraction. In those moments, there is no time to think. The body responds based on what it practices most. If it practices tension, it responds with tension. If it practices calm balance, it responds with calm balance. Standing still also reveals how much people rely on their eyes for balance. Many seniors feel less stable when they're in dim light or when they close their eyes briefly. That's because visual input has been compensating for other systems. Standing quietly and safely, noticing the ground through your feet, helps restore balance from the inside out. There's a deep sense of dignity in being able to stand comfortably without leaning or fidgeting. It's subtle, but it changes how you feel about yourself. You occupy space differently. You feel less rushed, less apologetic, more present. This presence carries into interactions with others. Conversations feel steadier. Waiting doesn't feel like wasted time. The body is no longer just something you manage. It becomes something you inhabit. And this is where the idea of more important than exercise really lands. Exercise is something you add. Standing is something you already do. Improving something you already do has a much bigger impact than adding something new that only happens occasionally. You don't need to set aside time. You don't need special equipment. You don't need motivation. You just need to notice the moments when you're upright and choose not to rush through them. The kitchen becomes a training ground. The bathroom, the hallway, the moments between tasks. Life itself becomes the practice. Over weeks and months, this changes how seniors relate to their bodies. There's less fear around stillness, less urgency to sit, more trust in balance, more confidence in small movements, and confidence, once restored, spreads. It affects how you walk, how you reach, how you recover from small stumbles. It affects how you see your future. Instead of imagining decline as something inevitable, you start to see capability as something negotiable, something you can influence daily. This doesn't mean you'll never have bad days. It doesn't mean everything will always feel easy, but it does mean that your baseline improves. And baseline matters more than peak performance. Most life is lived at baseline. Standing still also teaches patience with your body. You learn to listen instead of judge, to respond instead of react. That patience reduces frustration, which in turn reduces tension. It's common for seniors to feel frustrated with their bodies for not responding the way they used to. That frustration often shows up as stiffness. Standing quietly, without trying to fix anything, allows that frustration to soften. The body senses the change immediately. When the body doesn't feel pressured, it adapts more willingly. This is why forcing posture, forcing balance, forcing stillness often backfires. It turns standing into a test instead of an experience. The goal is not to stand correctly. The goal is to stand comfortably. Comfort is not laziness. Comfort is efficiency. It means the body is using just enough effort, no more, no less. As comfort returns, standing stops being something you endure and becomes something you trust. That trust shows up when you're waiting in line and don't immediately look for something to lean on. When you're talking and don't shift constantly. When you pause and don't feel the need to escape the moment. Those are quiet victories. And quiet victories are the ones that last. If you're listening to this and starting to notice how you stand right now, that's not an accident. Awareness begins instantly. And awareness is the doorway to change. You don't need to remember everything you've heard. You don't need to turn this into a project. Just notice standing. That's enough. If this perspective feels useful, if it gives you a sense of control instead of pressure, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Not because you need more content, but because reminders matter. Especially when they point to things that are easy to forget, precisely because they're simple. Standing still may never look impressive. No one will compliment you on it, but it quietly supports everything else you do. And years from now, when you're still able to stand with ease, to wait without discomfort, to move without fear, you'll know that the most important work you did wasn't during exercise. It was during the moments when you stood still and let your body remember how to hold you. That's not small. That's foundational. And it's available to you every single day.